Mangwana ni Malelepo, Vukenjani, Klekwas, Dumela, Wanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show, which remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. One of the breaking news stories which we'll delve into in depth tomorrow is the fact that Donald Trump and the Iranian government seems to have reached an agreement, a 10-point plan, which involves a ceasefire. So we'll see how that unrolls, particularly considering the unpredictability of the U.S. president. That news could be different in about an hour, which is why we'll wait to give you the full details tomorrow morning. But outside of that, these are some of the stories we're looking at on Africa Good Morning this morning. Dangote refinery expands African exports as supply disruptions persist from the aforementioned Iran-USA war. Burkina Faso rejects claims of civilian killings since the junta's takeover. UN slavery resolution sparks mixed reactions, and this is in Ghana as well as in France. In Zimbabwe, civic groups are withdrawing from the constitutional amendment hearings, citing that they are not fair. Ladysmith Black Mambazo veteran Albert Mazibuko dies at 77. Rorisang Mogojwe will also say Dumelang from Gaborone, Botswana, as she gives us the Botswana report, reporting on the health of former President Festus Mogae, as well as the issue with transportation in Botswana and the upcoming Stanbic Music Festival. This is Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. That's Africa with a K. My name is Ashwin Betty. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
Getting into our top stories. Nigeria's Dangote refinery, Africa's largest on the continent, has stepped up efforts to gasoline and urea to African countries affected by supply disruptions linked to the Iran war, according to owner Aliko Dangote. Speaking during a visit to the Lagos-based facility, he said the refinery is operating at its full capacity of 650,000 barrels per day and has helped cushion the impact of the crisis across Nigeria and wider Africa. Dangote stated the refinery had shipped about 17 gasoline cargoes to other African nations in March, while fertilizer exports have also increased as buyers seek alternative supply sources. He added that recent shipments have focused more on African markets, which was not previously the case. The facility can produce up to 3 million metric tons of urea annually, most of which is typically exported to the United States and South America. Despite maximum output, fuel prices in Nigeria remain at record highs due to elevated crude costs. Dangote said the refinery is seeking more crude priced in Naira to help reduce domestic fuel costs. Now, yesterday we spoke about Burkina Faso's junta declaring that there will be no democracy in the country, and now they do have some questions to answer because the government has denied a report alleging that more than 1,800 civilians have been killed in acts described as crimes against humanity since Ibrahim Traoré seized power 3 years ago. The report released by Human Rights Watch attributes most of the alleged killings to the military and allied militias, with the remainder blamed on Islamist militants. It is based on open-source information, including videos and satellite imagery, alongside testimonies from witnesses and survivors. One of the incidents cited occurred in December 2023, when more than 400 civilians were reportedly killed in Jibo by military forces and allied groups. Survivors described the violence as brutal and said they continue to experience psychological trauma. The government dismissed the findings, calling them false and describing them as conjecture and serious unfounded claims. Officials said the allegations lack credibility and do not reflect the situation on the ground. Burkina Faso has faced repeated accusations of abuses since the military takeover, as the country remains one of several West African nations that have experienced coups in recent years. Now, a United Nations resolution recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity has generated mixed reactions in Ghana and drawn criticism in France following its abstention. The resolution, adopted despite opposition from the United States and Israel and several abstentions, highlights the duration and brutality of transatlantic slavery and its lasting consequences, including racial discrimination and neo-colonialism. While it encourages member states to support initiatives aimed at reparatory justice, it does not explicitly call for reparations. Ghanaian President John Mahama led efforts to secure the recognition, and reactions in Accra ranged from celebration to skepticism. Now, some welcomed the move as validation of historical suffering, while others questioned its practical impact on everyday lives. In France, the decision to abstain has been criticized by lawmakers, particularly in overseas territories, who says it sends an unclear message. French officials argued the resolution risks comparing historical tragedies. The vote passed with 123 countries in support, while 52 abstained. Here is President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana advocating for the resolution at the United Nations.
Truth begins with language, with the power that words hold to shape consciousness and to shift perspectives to propel an action or other. There's no such thing as a slave. There were human beings who were trafficked and then enslaved by people who believed they could own those human beings as chattels, as their personal property. The entire transatlantic slave trade was designed to deny African people their humanity. And that denial was premised on a racial hierarchy with no basis in fact or science, a racial hierarchy that deemed whiteness superior and blackness inferior. So when discussing slavery and its resulting institutions and practices, we must always start by reclaiming racial equality, the dignity of Africans, the humanity of our ancestors who were enslaved, and as a matter of course, our own humanity. I speak these words today not only for Ghana, but also in solidarity with the rest of Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the wider diaspora, and indeed all people of good conscience throughout the world. This resolution is a pathway to healing and reparative justice. This resolution is a safeguard against forgetting. We stand united as Africans, whether on the continent or any part of the world, and link up with people of conscience around the world to seek truth and justice and restore the dignity and humanity of victims of the slave trade. This is a resolution of destiny. And I hope all of you will vote tomorrow to establish truth so that together we can pass this historic resolution and finally acknowledge the full horrors of these transgressions against humanity of the approximately 15 million human beings who were enslaved.
Now in Zimbabwe, members of the Constitution Defenders Forum have withdrawn from public consultations on the Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, describing the process as orchestrated and meaningless. The bill proposes significant changes, including extending presidential and parliamentary terms, shifting presidential elections to parliament, and altering electoral processes and institutions such as the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now in this video clip from Tech Mag, Zim is going to be Munyaradzi Gwisai, the official leader of Zimbabwe's Socialist Party, advocates Maduku, as well as Tenda Ibiti.
Gwisai with the DCP, but also with ISO, International Socialist Organization, with Lance, who's our general coordinator in the ISO. Thank you. I think yesterday, it was clear that this is not just a shambolic shell. This is a constitutional coup that is happening directly before our eyes. And so for those reasons, this is why you saw us say there's a united force yesterday, and there's a united force today. We are saying we are disengaging from this charade. We are calling on the people. We are disengaging in order to take this battle to where it really matters. We are disengaging to give this regime the real language it understands. The real language that it understands is the streets of this country, the factories of this country, the colleges of this country. That is a constitutionally enshrined right under Section 59 of the Constitution, the right to protest. So that is what we are going to do. But we are not saying the three movements that are here are going to do it alone. We have heard the cry of the people of Zimbabwe. We have heard the cry of the working class of Zimbabwe, the villagers, that we must do this as a united force. And this is the start that we're doing. And we are going to be consulting and uniting forces across the board for the people of Zimbabwe to speak. They have refused the people of Zimbabwe the right to speak. The people shall speak and claim their sovereignty in the streets of Zimbabwe. So that is their choice. We are ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Constitution. We are going to mobilize the people of Zimbabwe. This is the month that Geza called and stopped ZANU-PF from enforcing its 24 resolution. That's what we learned from Geza. And in respect and memory of Geza and all veterans and others, and that are thing, yes, we're going to protest. It's a right that we have. Fundamental to this constitution is people's sovereignty across the entire constitutional framework. And for that reason, yes, we are going. But as we said, this is going to be a united core, not just of the three of us as movements, the CDF, NCA, DCP, ourselves in Mashandi, the ISO, but across. The churches have spoken, other political organizations have spoken, the ZCTU has spoken, and so forth. So yes, we will be making consultations and uniting the people of Zimbabwe to stand up for their rights and stop this thing. This thing is not going to pass. It is not going to be 300 people who are going to pass this thing and speak on behalf of millions. If Smith in 1969 held a referendum for the white folk to do his 1969 constitution, if Mugabe held a referendum in 2000, when there were no legal constitutional obligations, and Mugabe held a referendum in 2013, then if those did, there is no way Emerson Mnangagwa can deny the people of Zimbabwe the right to speak, and speak they shall. Thank you.
This constitution, and it's a cause which we are prepared to die for. They've assaulted us, they've beaten us, they've arrested us, but we will not stop.
In conclusion, let me be clear. We cannot legitimize a process that silences the very people it claims to consult. The Constitution belongs to the people of Zimbabwe, and its future must be determined by them, not imposed upon them. We call upon all Zimbabweans to remain peaceful, vigilant, and engaged. The defense of the Constitution is now firmly in the hands of the citizens.
They like this. This does not change the fact that Parliament still has to make a decision. So Parliament can still say they don't want to do, irrespective of what is said. So this process is a process only of consultation. It does not change the law. Okay? It also does not change the requirement for a referendum, which is incorporated. It does not stress it.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay. It answers the issue that we overdo that. What we are witnessing is an abuse of power. It's an abuse. You abuse resources. You go out there and just do. Why would you bus people around? And why would you have one venue in a province or one venue in a district? It's an abuse. Yeah.
So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that situation. We apologize for the rather long video clip there, but we did want to make sure that you have full context of what is happening in neighboring Zimbabwe. Now, speaking of our neighbors, South Africa's entertainment industry is mourning Albert Mazibuko, a long-standing member of South Africa's Ladysmith Black Mambazo, died at the age of 77 following a short illness. The group confirmed his passing, describing him as a kind figure and a guiding presence for younger members. Mazibuko joined the group in 1969 and was part of its global success, including 5 Grammy Awards and its role on Paul Simon's 1986 album Graceland. Known for blending Zulu musical traditions with Isikatamia, the group became internationally recognized after early radio success and a recording contract in the 1970s. Mazibuko grew up in Mnambiti and left school early to work on a farm before joining the group founded by his cousin Joseph Shabalala. He spoke about life under apartheid, recalling strict past laws and fear of arrest, and later described the 1994 elections as a moment of hope. Tributes highlighted his role in spreading messages of peace and unity through music, with Culture Minister Gayton Mackenzie calling him a custodian of a uniquely South African sound. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. After the weather, Rorisang Mogojwe joins us from Gaborone. All right, it's time for us to be joined by Rorisang Mogojwe as she delivers the Botswana report, starting with former President Festus Mogae, currently hospitalized but in a stable condition.
Yes, former President Festus Mogae, who served as the third president of Botswana, is currently in hospital. Now, this was announced by the office of the president yesterday, and although no further details were given, a statement from the office of the president said the 86-year-old is unwell but remains in a stable condition. Now, government says that it will give updates as necessary and has called on members of the public to keep Mogae in their thoughts and prayers. Mogae served as the third president of Botswana from 1998 to 2008. We do wish him a speedy recovery.
All right, Rorisang, now in your next story, bus services have resumed. However, bus fare talks are still continuing.
All right, Ashwin, let me take you step by step as to the events that unfolded in the last week for us to reach this point. Now, if you can recall, last week we reported here that public transportation fares were being adjusted, they were being increased. Now, the very same day that the adjustment was implemented, tertiary students from across the country embarked on a peaceful protest. They marched to the office of the president to make some demands. They made 2 demands: that the transportation fares be decreased and they also wanted their student allowances to be increased as promised by the UDC government. Now, their main concern was the rising cost of living, seeing that there has been fuel price increases as well. So they were demanding that the government meet them halfway in terms of increasing the student allowances and decreasing the public transportation fares. Now, government eventually acceded to the requests of the tertiary students and moved quickly to reduce or adjust the public transportation fares, as well as increase partly the student living allowances. Now, what happened after that was that the Botswana Bus Operators Association was unhappy with this decision by government to U-turn and decrease the public transportation fares, and so they challenged this decision by the government. They took it to court over the Easter long weekend, and unfortunately they lost that case. They had put in an urgent application challenging this decision, but their case was dismissed with cause. And so right after the loss of this case, they immediately announced that there will be no bus services. Now, currently where we are, the bus services have since been resumed. They have since been restored and everything is returning to normal. Now, the chairperson, Tiragalo Mponang, says that buses are now running at full capacity and they are currently in negotiations over the fare adjustments. They're still pushing for a little bit of an adjustment to the fares, but currently the fare adjustment has been gazetted, which means it is currently law, and so they are negotiating for that, citing operational costs of the transportation sector. Now, while this is a temporary breakthrough, this dispute now shifts to cabinet, where a final decision is expected to be determined about the next phase of the standoff between public transport operators and the government. Now, the chairperson of the association has since apologized to members of the public for this inconvenience, noting that the operators remain under pressure but are committed to restoring normal services. They said they were frustrated because of the high operational costs of the transport sector, but currently bus services have returned to normal. Of course, this is a developing story that we will keep you updated on as to the next move by the cabinet, where the decision currently lies to see the next phase.
All right, before we get into Rorisang's last story, we'll take this opportunity to already say goodbye to you. Africa, good morning. We'll return tomorrow as Ari Hochard joins us with the South Africa report. He couldn't join us last week. He was at a fantastic festival, which we're expecting to hear from, but I know he's going to be talking a bit about what's happening in South Africa's social political scene as well. DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. That is precisely where you can find us. My name is Ashwin Berry. Here's Rorisang Mogojwe closing off, talking about the Stanbic Music and Lifestyle Festival in Botswana.
The Stanbic Music and Lifestyle Festival debuted last year and was a hit amongst revelers. Now it is back again this year, bigger and better. And organizers are saying that it is more than just entertainment, but rather a platform to grow the creative economy by blending culture, business, as well as innovation. Now this year's edition is themed where urban culture lives, and will feature a curated experience which will host more than 25 vendors offering a mix of food, music, art, alongside activities such as wine experiences, fashion showcase, and live performances. Now, Stanbic Bank Botswana says the festival continues to serve as a commercial platform for local creatives, providing opportunities for designers, for artists, chefs, as well as entrepreneurs to showcase as well as commercialize or monetize their work. Now, the headline act is yet to be announced, but organizers say the focus remains on empowering local talent as well as creating a space where culture and commerce will interact.